Item E, receive a report and provide direction to staff regarding proposed municipal code revisions to implement the residential design guidelines. Mr. Ackman, welcome back.
I'm back. Thank you, and good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. As the Council knows, 2 weeks ago there was a joint study session of both the City Council and the Planning Commission to review the residential design guidelines. And as you can see, Laura Russell, our associate planner, who I did an excellent job 2 weeks ago, is here just in case there's any questions that come up that relate to the meeting 2 weeks ago. But at that meeting, there was primarily feedback given to the document themselves. And along with the document, we also have a few policy points and code changes that we're proposing to both make the document more effective and consistent with the municipal code. There are 3 different areas. The first has to do with a consistency finding. And many people do not know, but currently, within the city of San Bruno, a majority of additions do not go through architectural review. The only reason they go through architectural review is if they exceed certain thresholds. If not, it's a non-discretionary process. It goes straight through a building permit, and although the planners do a good job of recommending changes to the homeowners to make the home look better, there's nothing within the code that requires those architectural changes to be made. And that was actually one of the first recommendations of the subcommittee, was that these residential design guidelines should apply to all additions that affect the exterior of a building. So it would not impact something if you're just doing a kitchen remodel inside your home, but if you're doing a porch extension and doing a bump out, then yes, these architectural changes would have to be made. And how that would be accomplished, the code would be amended to state that any exterior change that requires a building permit, the community development director would have to make the finding for approval that the design is consistent with the basic design principles found within the residential design guidelines, and I believe those are on page 8 of the residential design guidelines. And what they are is a summary of the intent of the residential design guidelines, and it's a good medium between the two in that you still have the teeth that the residential design guidelines can accomplish, while at the same time allowing flexibility to homeowners that they don't have to meet every single point of the residential design guidelines, but they still have to meet the overall intent of the document. The second part of this area is that the same finding for approval would have to be made by the Planning Commission for all discretionary permits. Currently, the Planning Commission has to make 5 to 10, depending on the type of permit, findings for approval, and this would be another one, that the project is consistent with the basic design principles found within the code. The second, or found within the residential design guidelines. The second area that we would like to look at is parking requirements for small homes. Currently, if you build any home, regardless of the size and regardless of the size of lot that it's on, you're required to put a 2-car garage on it. Now, this complicates issues because we have many 25-foot wide lots and substandard lot, and the definition of a substandard lot is anything less than 5,000 square feet. We have many substandard lots within San Bruno where if you put a 2-car garage on it, it makes for a really ugly design, because you either have a 2-car wide garage that takes up the entire width of the lot, or you have to put in a tandem garage that ends up making an awkward first floor plan that's basically unusable, maybe a family room in back and all the living area upstairs. What is unique is that it's actually inconsistent with our requirement for existing homes. Currently, our requirement for existing homes is if you currently have a 1-car garage and you don't exceed that 1,825-foot wide lot, 25-foot floor area plan, you don't have to put a 2nd-car garage. So what we're recommending here is that the two remain consistent, and that if you are building a new home on a substandard lot and you keep it under that 1,825 square foot mark, you only have to put a 1-car garage in addition to your 1-car driveway. And I think this will have 2 direct effects. A, it will make for better design, and B, it also will encourage smaller homes that are more compatible with existing neighborhoods. The third area, policy area, has to do with front yard paving and landscaping. And although it is always the community expectation that no one concrete over their whole front yard, there's nothing within the code that details that expectation. To achieve this, staff has identified 3 different options within the staff report and presenting to the City Council tonight how we can meet that objective. A little bit of background. Currently, the municipal code requires that at least no more than 80% of your lot is impervious surface. So there has to be at least 20% pervious surface on your lot, which in impervious surface allows rainwater to drip through to the ground and not end up in our stormwater system. We also have a 15% landscaping requirement. But what our code does not point out is where that landscaping and where that pervious surface has to be. So someone, if they have a large backyard, a large side yard, can make for their whole landscaping requirement within their side yard and backyard and then pave over the front yard. So with that in mind, we're proposing 3 different options. The first, which is the staff recommended option, is that we amend the impervious surface requirement to specify that front yards cannot be entirely paved over and apply that new requirement to all properties within the city. We have not gone the residential design guidelines specify a certain amount, and we would make that a consistent amount so that someone could not pave over their whole entire front yard. But what we would use is the term impervious surface, and that would allow different pavers to be used, not necessarily living plant material, but it would require something that allows rainwater to go into the ground and also allows some type of aesthetic issues to be addressed. The second point and the second option would be amend the code to require that primarily living plant material be found within the front yard at the same percentage. So this would not allow for pervious pavers to be help meet that percentage, and would require that it be all living plant materials. And the third option is kind of the leave it alone option, in that we do not specify it within the municipal code. We just let it go, and we just have it within the residential design guideline document, and it wouldn't be replicated within the municipal code. So those are the 3 areas of policy that we'd like to review with you tonight. We're going to be giving the same presentation to the Planning Commission next Tuesday to also get their feedback, and then ultimately bring it up to the Planning Commission and the City Council for review. So I could take any questions at this time, and Laura's also here.
Questions or comments?
Real quick question. When we're talking about the frontage, and if we have substandard setback issues, what would you propose to do in those situations?
I think that's a good question, because just for the public's knowledge, a standard setback within San Bruno is 15 feet for the front yard. And when you have 15 feet to work with, there are a lot of different landscaping and pervious surface material options that you could work with. But I think you're making a good point that when you get some of these San Francisco style homes that maybe have a 3-foot setback or 5-foot setback, you don't have that much room to work with, and you want a part of your area to walk in there to get to your home, and there might be other issues there too. So what I would say is we incorporate something within the code that allows community development director discretion with substandard lots, or planning commission discretion, depending on who the approving authority is.
Through the chair,
Councilman Rivera?
on the same subject, I'd like a little more elaboration on trees. I know with a lot of the projects that go through use permit process, many of the projects are required to provide a new tree. And it's not really stated where it should be, or anything. It's just stated that there's an in lieu fee, or that you provide a tree. I think that we should have more direction as to where we want the tree. And other than just calling out landscaping, calling plantings, I think we should specifically, put something in there that addresses trees in the front yard.
Would you like to see that within the municipal code, or would you like to see that more within the
design guidelines?
Within the design, okay.
Irene?
Thank you. Aaron, on your number 1 recommendation with the impervious surfaces, it says impervious here, but you made some comment about pervious surfaces with the concrete and the pavers that allow rain. I'm sorry, I got a little confused about what it is you're recommending and what you're adding, and
It's my understanding, and Laura could correct me if I'm wrong, that this recommendation would be that you have to have a certain amount of pervious surface within your front yard. And it doesn't necessarily, I think I used the word incorrectly, it doesn't necessarily have to be living plant material, but it has to be something that allow water to drain to the ground rather than taking it to our stormwater system.
right, exactly. When we do things, when you look at how that might work out, I strongly think that there should be some kind of living, even if it's a tree. or some kind of greenery, even though the surfaces may be pervious and allow rainwater, there should be something green in front. On a side issue, why I have you, when you go through the guidelines, is there any method that anyone looking through this is going to be able to tell at a glance what is required and what is recommended? Is there any plans to say, code it somehow, color code it, or put a symbol next to it or something? Because you'd have to read every word almost to find out what exactly is required and what's just strongly recommended.
Actually, I think that's a great idea. I think that's something that, if the council would all agree, that we can incorporate some type of legend or some type of summary sheet that at least goes over the requirements of the city code, and then also shows that these are other design characteristics that you could implement in order to meet the basic design principles within the design guidelines.
Just on that item, I think it's real important. I think that's a valid point. The only thing I would hate to see happen is that something color-coded where someone then looking at it says, oh, only the blue items are what I have to do, so I don't even have to read the other items or give them consideration. So I think you need to maybe do some type of legend.
So, yeah, something.
Yeah, so
I
it's
agree.
clear
You
to
don't
the
wanna.
person doing it, but you don't want to just have it laid out that these are required and these aren't.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even italics. I don't know. Somebody
Yeah.
must have done it somewhere, but some kind of consideration that way. And then also on this, and these have been percolating through my mind, with the sustainability that you have in here in the guidelines, which I think are great, can we also think of some kind of carrot to go with this? We often think of penalties and fines if people don't do things, but maybe there is some kind of, you get 10% off your planning fee, permit fee, if you include so much sustainable planting, or some kind of something. I'm sure somebody's figured out something, or you guys can be creative and do it, but I'd love us to have a little more carrots instead of just sticks on all this. That's all I
Great.
have for this
Thank
minute.
you.
I'll find some more.
Alice Barnes, Fifth Avenue. I apologize, I stepped out and I did not hear the beginning of your presentation, but I have seen people flat out take up the grass and put down the concrete for years, and I've thought of that same problem. Is there any possibility to put together a packet with some of this information, and hey, you want a new water heater, you need a permit, and get it to every new home buyer in the community when they purchase a home? Because, I bought mine in 1990, and I don't remember anything, Maybe you could think of that. Thank you.
Good point. Any other comments from council?
No, not me.
Okay. One-car garage, I think that's the only thing we didn't touch. Any
Oh.
concerns on that?
No, I think it's a
Council,
great
I think
idea.
makes sense. Okay. Anything, direction that you need that you haven't gotten?
I guess for the third option, in terms of the front yard, is there any preferred option that you have? Is it, I think I heard that you would like to see there be options given, but there at least be some living plant material within the front yard.
Mhm.
Okay. I think I would word it that way.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, your first recommendation is the one to work with.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Ken?
It's been my experience that the key to this, and the key to it being successful throughout the community, is that we give the customer, we give the property owner the information, not necessarily all at once, but give them the information that that there is a lot of guidelines here that need to be followed, and then help them through it. And then also the fact that it gets followed up and that it gets enforced.
Yeah.
Because then yours truly and the additional, we'll make it very clear to these homeowners, along with the contractors, and things, that no, they don't have the free rein to do whatever they want. they don't have the free rein to just pull up their landscaping and pave it over. That there is a new guideline in town and that we're gonna enforce it. Thanks for all the work, it's great.
Thank you. Appreciate it.